So I'm Jess, and I'm the co-founder of an organisation called Tourette's Hero, and Tourette's Hero aims to celebrate the creativity and humour of Tourette syndrome, and increase awareness of its challenges, and to challenge some of the big myths about the condition. And I was invited to talk here today by Laura, who is organising the event, because we had a mutual friend in common called Amy. And Amy died at the end of last year, and she was 14. And Amy had Tourette's, and had faced lots of challenges, because of people misunderstanding her tics, and so Laura and I both think that increasing awareness of Tourette's, and helping people to understand what it's like to live with the condition, is an important way that we can celebrate Amy's memory. Yes. Getting to sleep, and staying asleep with Tourette's can be quite tricky. Hedgehog. I take a drug called melatonin to help me sleep at night, which some people might have heard of, and I also use a weighted blanket to help offer a little bit of resistance. My sleep has got better, but it's definitely, I used to wake up in the shouting, and I used to still tick in my sleep, although a lot less than perhaps during the day. Hedgehog. It's a good question though. Hedgehog. Funny. It's absolutely, from my perspective, it's absolutely to find it funny. I think if I say Hedgehog, some of the tics are really funny and really strange and really surreal. And to ignore that feels a bit weird and a bit unnatural. There is a big difference between laughing at someone, and sharing a joke and laughing with someone, And I think people think that the line between laughing at someone and laughing with someone is quite thin, but I don't think it is. I think pretty much everybody knows when they're being laughed at and when they're being laughed with. I've never felt in any doubt about when somebody is just mocking me, because I move or make noise, in a different way, or when somebody is, enjoying some of the surreal things that I say as tics, But it's also important, if you're laughing at something, to think about what you're finding, what you're finding funny, the whole, reason we created Tourette's Hero, was to try and shift the humour, and to point people in the direction of the real humour. Tourette's isn't funny because people say swear words in a supermarket. Tourette's is funny because it draws on everything that anyone's ever known or experienced, and random things pop up get mixed up together, and those ideas can often be really interesting. And Hedgehog, and the idea of Tourette's Hero is that then they're springboards for other people's creativity. So they've been said, they exist because of my unusual neurology. So it's somebody else's turn to take them on and do something else with them. Hedgehog. Absolutely not. I have no control over what words become tics. Hedgehog. They just turn up. Hedgehog. And some tics I say over and over again, hundreds of times a day. I know that there are a lot of biscuits in my life. Hedgehog. And that has been the case for about 3 years. But before biscuit, it was squirrel. Hedgehog. Cats. What it'll be next, I have no idea. I have no control over what they are. Hedgehog. No, what tics feel like is an interesting point, actually, because I think tics do, for me, have a very strong sensation attached to them. Hedgehog, and it's not in the part of the body that's ticking. For me, there are two big sensations, feelings that are associated with my tics. One is a surging sensation up my spine, which is very uncomfortable, and the other is a bit like I've got itching powder in my blood, and I have to move away from it, and you can't, it's all-consuming, and so that can be very uncomfortable, and I think that's worth thinking about, particularly if people are holding tics in. That can often intensify that discomfort, Hedgehog. I know that when I was at school, I used to try and make myself have pins and needles so that I felt a different sensation other than the need to move around, or I'd go to the toilet, so that I could let all my tics out, and perhaps when I was older, to start with, before I felt confident talking about Tourette's and saying what I needed, I was try and not stay places very long, or biscuit, or not be out very long because I didn't want to tick in front of people, and that meant that I was making choices that were limiting what I was doing. Biscuit. As soon as I started talking about Tourette's, biscuit, and explaining my tics, that had a big difference, made a big difference to my life. Biscuit. More positive difference than anything else, any other intervention or treatment or drug. Hedgehog. Just being able to explain tics is really important. Yeah, but why certain words become tics is a mystery. Hedgehog. Tourette's can be very tiring, physically exhausting because you're moving around. Hedgehog. But also, I think what Curtis said about it being emotionally and mentally tiring is really important to think about and really interesting. Biscuit. One of the hedgehog. Tourette's is really unpredictable, biscuit. It waxes and wanes in the course of someone's life, so it can get better and worse, biscuit. So you might see somebody one day and they're not, biscuit, they haven't really got any tics, and another day they've got lots more tics, biscuit, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is feeling any different, biscuit. It's just sometimes Tourette's does that, biscuit, but it can be very tiring and very unpredictable, biscuit, and that's difficult, biscuit. But what's also difficult is that how people respond can be very unpredictable, biscuit. Hedgehog. So if you're worrying and putting a lot of energy into thinking, biscuit, about what other people might think, it can make it much more tiring than just having the movements and noises themselves is. Hedgehog. They definitely have, biscuit. They were milder when I was younger, biscuit. But I perhaps had more strange, impulsive behaviours. I used to run at closed doors and biscuit, do all sorts of biscuit, sort of very impulsive things. Biscuit, hedgehog, biscuit. And there've been times, biscuit, and certainly biscuit, when people are really concentrating, biscuit. So my friend Ruth, when she sings, or when Curtis was talking about music, biscuit, it can help, biscuit. And even those moments of slight calm or a nice relief, biscuit. I don't have loads of those times myself at the moment. I'm definitely not a singer. Hedgehog, biscuit. But yeah, sometimes when I swim, I find that sort of really concentrating on a really repetitive motion is biscuit helpful. But yeah, there have been times where it goes up and down. Biscuit, actually, surprisingly, now is actually quite a good period for me compared to what it was perhaps like a couple of years ago. Yeah, no, I haven't been able to find clear reasons or patterns. Biscuit. I think lots of people think about tics as just about nervousness and about nervous tics. Hedgehog. For me, biscuit, any heightened emotion, whether that's excitement or anger or frustration, biscuit, or happiness, biscuit, or nervousness, biscuit, that can make my tics worse, biscuit. But it isn't the sort of underlying cause, biscuit. Biscuit, I can get very, when I'm happy, biscuit, my tics get much worse and very excitable, biscuit. And when I'm angry or upset, they can get much more noticeable. But biscuit, but that doesn't all the time. I'm sort of generally ticking, biscuit. Anyway, hedgehog. Biscuit, that's a really interesting question and something that I've thought about a little bit before. Biscuit, there are definitely some bits about Tourette's that I would really like to get rid of. Biscuit, I really miss going for a walk. Biscuit, and I really miss spending time on my own, which is quite difficult at the moment. Hedgehog, but there are some bits about Tourette's, biscuit, that I think have made me a more caring and thoughtful and empathetic person, and I wouldn't want to get rid of that. Biscuit, and certainly, biscuit, I laugh a lot more in a day, I think, than lots of people do, because my tics, biscuit, bring all sorts of random, spontaneous and interesting things in, and I wouldn't want to miss some of those shared jokes with my friends, biscuit. So given that there isn't a magic wand at the moment, I'm pretty happy just finding practical solutions to make my life a little bit easier without getting rid of the tics altogether. It's interesting, biscuit, public transport actually, and buses and trains, biscuit, where I've had some of the most interesting conversations and some of the most upsetting experiences, biscuit. Obviously those sorts of enclosed situations where you can't get away from, biscuit. Sometimes people have responded in very negative ways that has been hurtful, biscuit, and sometimes I've had phenomenal conversations that have made a boring journey go much quicker. Hedgehog. So and there's no one group, biscuit, of people who responds better or worse, biscuit. If somebody is laughing, biscuit, or tutting or making negative comments, biscuit, I will always challenge that if I know that it's related to my tics, biscuit. And sometimes, often people listen, biscuit, and sometimes people don't, biscuit. But the vast majority of people, biscuit, once you explain about tics and Tourette's, biscuit, are supportive, and it's a tiny percentage who aren't. Biscuit, hedgehog, biscuit, cats. The thing that I find, I understand that, biscuit, if you haven't seen Tourette's before, it can look very unusual and it might make you laugh, biscuit, biscuit. But the thing that I find upsetting is, biscuit, is when I've explained it to somebody, biscuit, and then they don't listen, biscuit, and particularly if they're in a position of authority, biscuit. So that sometimes happened with the police, or with people on the underground, biscuit, or people in shops who, biscuit, are looking out for sort of unusual behaviour, biscuit, and find it difficult to accept that biscuit, that there is a different reason, biscuit, for that different reason for that than the one that they've got in their mind, biscuit. Biscuit. My thoughts are completely clear, biscuit. So, biscuit. For me, some people will say, "Oh, Tourette's is saying what you're thinking," biscuit. But for me, biscuit. Although some tics are linked to the environment and not saying something, like I'm really bad at getting my own cash out because I'll shout my PIN number out. Hedgehog, biscuit. Hedgehog, biscuit. But mostly, my thoughts are completely clear and unrelated. So I can. Biscuit, I can keep having a conversation or saying what I'm thinking, biscuit, without anything going on in my mind, biscuit. Sometimes though, they obviously do interrupt, biscuit, and they do stop the flow of a conversation, biscuit. But I think most of my friends, hedgehog, definitely get used to the regular ones, biscuit, the biscuits and the hedgehog, and are able to, biscuit, tune them out. Hedgehog, cats. Biscuit, what's interesting is that, biscuit, with some of the more unusual complex phrases that I say that are less regular and more one-off, biscuit, if I catch one of those halfway through and manage to stop myself, I have no idea what the end will be, biscuit. And I think my friends and family sometimes find that frustrating, biscuit, if they think it was going to be a particularly good one. Like, what was the end? What was the end? I don't know. Biscuit, hedgehog, cats. Very occasionally, if it's a very long, complex tic, I wouldn't want that. I can't often stop it. Biscuit, hedgehog, and it there, biscuit, biscuit, and yeah. But sometimes I'll be. The instinct is obviously to try and stop it, biscuit. But the hedgehog, but it's very automatic. So most of the time I can't, biscuit. If I paid attention to all my tics or concentrated on them, I would get nothing done, biscuit, because they're so frequent. So biscuit, I have to sort of edit them out myself and just plough on with whatever I'm wanting to say. Themselves, and I work full time, and when I was taking some of those medications, biscuit, I found it very hard to keep doing my job, biscuit, because it was making me so tired, biscuit. I take a sort of muscle relaxant now, biscuit, which helps with some of the ticking fits, biscuit. But other than that, I choose to try practical solutions like wearing padded gloves, biscuit, to stop my hands getting sore, biscuit, or wearing knee pads, biscuit. I find thinking about the practical solutions a little bit better than trying to deal with it at a brain level, because they don't really understand it brilliantly at the moment. So that's my approach. But medication does help some people, but I know that sometimes it can be a bit of a balance, and you have to get that right for yourself. Biscuit. So Biscuit, Tourette's Hero is an organisation that Matthew and I, is a community interest company. So Biscuit, that's something that we've set up and created, Biscuit. But now I work full time. I work as a project coordinator, Biscuit, for a children's organisation in London, and we run a adventure playground and a go-kart track and a nature garden, Biscuit. Biscuit, and my approach, Biscuit, in terms of employment, Biscuit, I've always worked with children and young people, Biscuit, since while I was at college and leaving college, Biscuit, and I always explain and put on my application forms that I have Tourette syndrome, Biscuit, and I always explain at interview that I have Tourette's, Biscuit. I choose to do that because I wouldn't want to start working anywhere where people didn't know, Biscuit, that was part of my life, Biscuit, even when my tics were a lot less noticeable, hedgehog. But I've got brilliant support, Biscuit, both from the organisation I work for, Biscuit, and the government scheme called Access to Work, which supports disabled people in employment, and they help fund my support worker and my travel to and from work, Biscuit, so they help make it easier to keep working, Biscuit, with the additional things to think about if you've got a disability, Biscuit, hedgehog. But yeah, working in Tourette's can be very difficult, but it's often very difficult because, Biscuit, not because people with Tourette's can't, Biscuit, do interesting and varied jobs, Biscuit, but because people's attitudes to it make assumptions about what they can and can't do, or assume what it's going to be like to have somebody working for you that's got Tourette's, Biscuit. So the more we can break down some of those assumptions and judgments, Biscuit, the easier it'll be for everybody to sort of share their skills, Biscuit, and make really positive contributions. Biscuit, hedgehog.
I think because your mind is concentrating on one thing, but I'm not really sure how to explain it really. But saying just have a break, spend time on your own, but sometimes it can't help. Sometimes spending time with friends can actually help, but I didn't really have much friends then, because years ago it used to be really hard to understand because no one really done things like what we're doing now. So it would have been a lot harder. Yeah, I do, especially with music. I put my headphones in. I mean, obviously when I'm crossing the road I just take them out, but you're listening. Yeah. Yeah. Number one, don't tell me to stop ticking because it can make me worse. And don't stare at me because it can make me not want to be in public. I mean, you used to when I was younger, but as I got older, it's not so much. And give me a chance to say what I want to say, because sometimes I tick when I'm trying to talk, and I just get frustrated, and then that makes me get even worse. And then respect me for who I am, and treat me like a normal person, because no one really likes that, do they? And I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I hope this afternoon can help you understand more about Tourette's